can get started. And I'll share my screen. So, yeah, Forrest mentioned this before the meeting started, but he's added a new faces item here. Do we have any new faces for this meeting? I don't think so. All right. Well then, moving on to the other standing items, we've got top level RFCs. There's 2 of them. So I think we talked about this restructure of the core DEPS governance last week. Is there anything to update on this week?
Yeah. So I addressed the 2 of the comments in there. One, I accidentally put all of us as contributors, so I deleted those. And now the maintainer contributor separation is explicit. And then I also removed the unresolved questions because Emily asked if this was going to differ greatly from the existing governance in Paketo for contributors to become maintainers, and the process aligned with that, and it's the same. So no further discussion necessary. And if that's everything, then this should be good to be reviewed and merged.
All right.
Unless there's any other comments.
I think you addressed the only comment I had there. I can take a look today and see about getting it merged.
Thanks.
Approving right now.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
the blinding speed of democracy.
There was one other top level RFC here for a Git Build Pack. I don't see Jen here in the meeting. Basically this, from what I understood, was asking for a build pack that would check out some Git metadata and attach it as like build and launch environment variables, making it available to like other build packs and the app itself down the road. I think I actually have some questions about this that I need to go do a review for. There's like some changes I'd like to see that allow us to like configure Git in addition to just getting metadata out of it. So I'll do that. Go ahead and add some comments.
I brought that up as well. I feel like it's useful enough that I'd be happy to like take this build pack even without that change. It could be a separate change in the future. Some of the questions I wanted to raise were, this RFC mentions setting these environment variables at runtime as well as build time. I'm sort of curious about why that'd be necessary. And then I was wondering, and this is another thing that I think it's still valuable without this, but while we're discussing it, it might be worth setting labels on the image describing the revision and stuff like that as well in this build pack.
Cool. Those all sound like good additions. Yes, this is still open. So if folks want to comment on this or have some ideas for it, please
I actually
check it out.
I have a kind of quick nitty-gritty question about this. Is the idea that we are going to try and just harvest this information from like existing Git metadata that's in the source, like so like the .git folder, or are we planning on using like the Git tool, so like the Git CLI tool to actually pull this metadata? I'm like curious on like on a stack level what we're trying to do, because if we were using something like Tiny and trying to use the Git build pack, that wouldn't work if we were planning on shelling out to Git. I'm just curious on what we're looking to do for that.
I think Tiny still has Git in it, at least during the build phase. I feel like that must be the case because I believe that that's how like Go actually fetches dependencies under the covers.
You're right.
And so if the Go build pack does function on Tiny, then I think we're good.
You're right. I forgot that the build image is different.
Yeah, I do believe the intention is to use the Git CLI to pull some of this metadata out, not to re-implement Git's internals by itself. Okay, moving on to the language-specific RFCs. It looks like we have 2 of them here. I believe there's already a line item for this one, so I'm going to skip it for the moment. RFC to add package metadata to stacks. We talked about this one. Is there anything new to update about this RFC this week?
No, don't think so. And unless there's no discussion around it as well, this could be ready to be reviewed. Unless there's any other comments or questions people want to have at this time.
So this is something that's internal to the core deps team. You're just bringing it up here for informational purposes in case anyone objects to what's going on. Cool.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Well, if you have concerns, this RFC is there. Sounds like it's going to get merged soon. Yeah, this one has a line item already for it, so we'll skip it for now, and we can move on to the actual agenda line items. The first one being samples smoke tests.
Yeah, I just wanted to add this. We recently just added a series of smoke tests to the samples repo covering almost every sample that we have. I think that there's a couple of exceptions here and there. We haven't done anything with it other than make it exist. I think that the hope in the future is to test new versions of builders out against the samples and make sure that our samples are still functioning. But I just wanted to call that out. So if you are adding to the samples repo, you may want to check in on the tests and drop in a test if that is something that you are so inclined to do. Make sure that your sample app stays minty fresh.
All right, and then we've got a .NET blog post.
Yeah, I also added this. We have a blog post about the re-architecture or the sort of launch of the re-architected Paketo Build Pack, discussing some cool new things that you can do / things that we've improved. It's a cool blog post. If you are a dedicated .NET developer, you might want to go check it out. This is also the first blog post that was added through the new self-hosting blog. So if you want to see the process that was used for that is all laid out in the sort of pull request chain that is attached to adding that blog post. So you can check that out.
Cool. Next up, we've got Tiny Builder Procfile RFC.
Yeah, this is still me. I put this in this morning, so I can't imagine anyone has had time to look at it, but I'm adding an RFC to the Tiny Builder to add Procfile as a standalone order group at the end of all of the other order groups. I think this kind of makes sense because I think that if you have just sort of a built binary that you want to run inside of a container, you can just chuck a Procfile into that same repository and sort of call it a day and run it on sort of the smallest image that's out there, assuming that your binary is compatible with that. And I believe Procfile itself actually already has support for the tiny stack to run on. I think there was some work done for that a couple months back. So I figure about time to just put it in as an order grouping.
Great.
Are there any questions about that, actually, by the way? Because I know I have 2 builder maintainers chilling here. Do you have any questions about this off the bat, or you want to take some time to read it? It's pretty short, so.
The only
Yeah.
question that jumped out at me is that I feel like the typical proc file workflow like uses a direct false process, which isn't something that's supported on the tiny builder because there's no bash, right? But I think Ben made a change to it to also support direct processes, even if it's not in the most intuitive way right now. So I think it does make sense. That's sort of what was going through my head.
I think, yeah, I think so. The build pack will do the following: if the application stack is tiny, the contents of the proc file must be a single command with 0 or more delimited arguments. Yeah, there's some stuff attached to it, but there is a way forward to doing it.
Sounds
Cool.
good to me.
If you have questions or concerns or thoughts on that, check out the RFC. Last thing here we've got is maintainers for the artwork repo. Been doing a bunch of administrative tasks in the last week and noticed that we don't have any owners for the artwork repo. I think it's one of the only repos that doesn't have any sort of like maintainer ownership. I was just going to bring it up in this meeting. I think it maybe makes the most sense to add it to the existing content subteam. I was going to ask that subteam, does that seem reasonable?
Can I just ask? Sorry, Ryan. What actually goes in that repo? I've never looked at it.
It's mostly like logos. There's like the Paketo logos themselves. I think it's there for us to reference, and if people want to write about us, we can point them at high quality logos that we have that are existing somewhere. All right, well, if there are no objections, I'm just going to add it to the content subteam. I think that maybe makes the most sense. All right. Anything else that's not here on the agenda that anyone is dying to bring up in this meeting? Fantastic. It was a short one today. All right, folks, have a good day. See y'all later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.